Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarvottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Rub your palms, keep on face. Right. So, good evening to you all. So, we were looking at Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So, we were in chapter number 2. So, fortunately, unfortunately, today still we will be in chapter number 2. Next week only we will be able to, sometimes should be able to finish it off, right? So today basically we are going to learn about 3 Yoga Sutra. So we talked about the terms, the high-level science behind yoga in chapter 1 and what yoga does. So much smoke coming in. Okay, done. Uh-oh. Right, and then, so we came into chapter 2. So basically in chapter 2, we are talking about what exactly is the path that we have to go, which is called the Raja Yoga. So in chapter 1, we talked about the high-level concepts, what yoga is. So chapter 2 tells you exactly what are the steps you need to follow. So we talked about last week the yamas, yama and niyama. Yama are self-restraints. Niyama are like theorems, right? What you are supposed to. So yama is like, if you stay like this, it will be good, right? So good things that you should do, bad things you should avoid, something like that. Niyama is something you must do. So if you are in the path of yoga, if you want to attain the Samadhi, what Patanjali is explaining, so these are non-negotiable things that you must do, right? Then we are coming to Yoga Asana and Pranayama today. So these are the 3rd and the 4th steps. So there are some news for you today. So long-term practitioners of yoga, you will get a little shock thinking, okay, is that so, right? So we will get into our slide. So let me share the screen. So many we talked about. Okay, so we stopped finally at sutra number 46, right? So after talking about yama and niyama, Patanjali goes to explaining about what is an asana. So asana is more of a physical thing, but why is such a physical thing is very important when it comes to a mind level resolving a problem, right? So there are 3 words. So this is something that you must know. This is something that this sutra, Sthira Sukham Asanam, is something that you must know, plus you must practice till you become sthira in an asana, sukham in an asana. Till you come there, you must know this. So this is the first thing, or the 3rd thing I would say you should know in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Number 1, I would say 4th thing. Number 1, what is yoga? Yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. That's it. How to go there is the whole Yoga Sutra is about. Number 2, what are yama? Number 3, what are niyama? Number 4, an asana, which is sthira sukha asana, right? Sthira is firm, fixed, steady. right? So sometimes we do meditation sessions for 1 hour. So when I close my eyes, I believe everybody is sthira. But when I check the video, I believe everybody is asthira, right? Not sthira at all. So some people are doing like while meditating, while keeping the eyes closed, they're doing like 6 to 7 asanas to relieve the pain of one asana, right? So, which is not sthira, which definitely tells you it's not sukha. It doesn't give you happiness. It doesn't give you delight, right? When you close your eyes and stay there for some time, instead of sukham, it gives you dvesha, right? Dvesha towards the person who asked you to stay in that asana, right? So then they're checking whether is this over now, is this over now? He said 5 minutes, why is he taking 20 minutes? It's very unethical. Why is he lying to people, right? All this kind of thing, right? That's okay. So sthira sukham asana. So an asana, yoga asana, has to be a fixed, steady, firm, and it has to give you happiness. You should be able to stay in that yoga asana happy, not stay in that yoga asana. Let's count from 1 to 27. We are still at 20. Why is the last 7 take so much of time? It feels like a minute, 2, 3. No, not like that. So that's where, again, I go back to my example. The yogi in the Himalayas, he is sthira in the sunlight, in the rain, in the snow, right? He's sthira. And he is sukham. So he is in delight, right? So if you are a yoga, if you are a yogi, means you are in full-time happiness. You are in happiness. You are in a happy state. Happy state derived through the calmness, not mind running all over the place, right? So through that, whatever the calmness that you gathered, with that, basically you are in happiness, right? So in such a way, steady and a happy posture is what you call as a yoga asana, right? Such a sthira, firm, sukham, happy pose is what you call as a yoga asana. So the Patanjali's one-to-one word-by-word definition goes as asana is a perfect firmness of body, steadiness of intelligence, and benevolence of spirit. Firm body, steadiness of intelligence, and benevolence of spirit. Now, the steadiness of intelligence cannot be gathered if the body itself is not firm, right? So body has to be like a statue. So once you bring the body to that position, now you are not thinking about whether the knee is okay, whether the neck is okay, whether the spine is straight, whether the neck, whether a mosquito is running around you. All these things now you are not worried about. So firmness in the body has to come first. Then only the steadiness of the intelligence come. At least to even for you to think about some gossip, you have to stay in a proper asana or proper way. That's why even when people are gossiping, so they keep one leg on the other, then they change the position, they throw their hands, and they throw their legs. All these action comes in because that whole frustration and everything is inside the body, and those things are going out, coming in, right? So if you keep the body firm, right, and then the steadiness of the intelligence, at least we can start to even think about not going there. Then, of course, body is steady and body is firm, and then you can actually calm down the mind. So the mind is not disturbed with any bodily or physical problems, right? So the mind has the ability to at least to focus on something, at least listen to somebody. Then we can talk about benevolence to spirit and all. So 246, the 46 sutra, I can't explain and finish off within the 46 sutra itself, right? So it will take another 30 sutras to understand what is the steadiness of intelligence and benevolence of spirit Patanjali is talking about, right? Then we move on to the next one. So remember, sthira sukha asanam. So next day when we go for an asana, I will not tell, take the neck straight. Now stop thinking all the nonsense in your head and then keep the spine straight and all these things. No, it's Sthira Sukham Asana. Remember that. That's a yoga asana, right? So I'm saying, no point you able to even stand on one hand. Whole body is on one hand, like a star, right? Like a starfish. Doesn't matter if you can't maintain it. If when you come to that asana, if the hand is like shaking, and you really want to do it because a camera is rolling or somebody is taking a picture, that is not yoga, right? You have to stay in that position. Stay in that position for a prolonged period. Stay in sukhasana for a prolonged period, right? Right now, we are sitting and listening to this. Observe how many times you are changing your position. Right now, at least we are sitting on a chair. Now, from next week, let's sit on the floor and let's do this, right? And we'll see, then again, the attendance will become very low because this is not going to work. The way it is functioning is not satisfactory, right? Okay, so let's go to the next sutra. So here, actually, the nice thing is, at this point of Yoga Sutra explanation, you are getting into the practical experiences, right? So the Yama Niyama, whether you do Yama Niyama or not, right? So we can talk about it. I can talk about it. This is Yama, this is Niyama, you should do this, you should restrain from this, all this. But you yourself inside, you know who you are. Asana is something even an external person can look at you and judge whether this person is in the right spot or not, right? Good. So then Patanjali says, Prayatna Saithilya Ananta Samapatibhyam, right? Prayatna. What is Prayatna? So we say even in Sinhala, so this is Sanskrit, right? So in Sinhala also Prayatnaya, meaning take an effort, right? To do something, do you give any effort? Let's say to even read a book, did you give a attempt to it, right? So prayatna is a effort, but prayatna here is what is meant by Patanjali is persevering effort. What is perseverance? Perseverance is basically we are not taking a step back. We are trying to hold on to it and we continue to give the effort without breaking our effort. So continued exertion is what is called as a prayatna. So prayatna, saithilya, relaxation. So give a persevering effort, and he talks about relaxation. Ananta, what is Ananta? Ananta in Sinhala is infinite. Anantaya yana paradige, have heard that, right? So people going into endless problems is what you call as Anantaya yana paradige, right? So, but in yoga, what you call as Ananta is you have gone to endless. Your mind is lifted to a place where you have realized the endless nature, endless pattern of the nature, right? Eternal. Okay. So if you ask where is the end of sky, there is an end to the sky. Where is the end of universe? To our universe, there is an end to our universe. So what is the end of the multiverse? There is an end to the multiverse as well. So likewise, endless or ananta is endless. There is no full stop, which means whatever endless, now let's think, okay, what is endless around me, right? So everything around me is endless, right? Only I think myself is, there is an end. So I am this person, this is my I. So I put an end to things, right? As far as you put an end to things, you will be a particular person, and then the whole universe will be another thing. So that's where we call as a whole nature is different. I am different. So yeah, I do preach things for everybody, but I am like this. You can't be like that. You are part of it, right? So perfection in an asana is achieved when the effort to perform it become effortless and the infinite being within is reached. Perfection in an asana. Perfection in an asana is you are a master of an asana. So I shared a video, a child just jump, before he fall down to the floor, he come to Padmasana and he falls down, right? In a jump, he come to Padmasana. No problem, even in Padmasana, even if he falls down, no issue. So perfection in an asana is something like that, is achieved when the effort to perform it become effortless. So noises don't come when you do the asana. Noises like ammo, ayyo, type of noises doesn't come when you try to do the asana, right? And it doesn't give any pain, and it doesn't need further improvement, right? So that's where you actually come to the perfect position of an asana, right? And the infinite being, so infinite being within is reached. So it's like, so for people, taking a very simple example, people hate to meditate. The reason is, when you ask why you don't like to meditate or why you don't like to keep your eyes closed and shut up and just be with yourself, right? Why you can't do it is, at the moment you close your eyes, 1,000 problems become 5,000 problems. Variations of problems come, like variations of yoga asana, right? Variations of problems, probabilities, whole pure mathematics come into the picture, and so many things are running in your mind. So people don't like to actually meditate because they say, I can't bring my mind to a calm state. I can't bring my mind to a steady, relaxing state. So what Patanjali says is, so a perfection in yoga asana is achieved. One is effort is zero, no effort. Easily you can do the yoga asana, and this whole infiniteness is felt within. So when you come to a yoga asana, so that's why when we do balancing yoga asana, people lose balance in most of the yoga asana, not because they have a physical issue. It's just that for that particular few seconds, they can't bring the mind to one point. Mind is running all over the places. Come to Sirasasana without support and see what happens, right? So you just fall down. So you should be able to bring the legs up and maintain in such a point. If you bring the leg here, you will fall down, right? And the whole speculation comes to your mind. And if you bring here, again, you will fall down to this side. And there's a tendency that you will fall to the sides, right? So it has to be in perfect, like a meditation. You have to do the yoga asana. So a person who is in the infinite, who is without bondages, without kleshas, who understands I am not a separate person from this universe. I am the universe. There's no I am. Universe is what this is all about, right? A person who understands that don't have problems, of course. He don't have problems about his own wall between two houses, right? So if you really see you and your neighbor, we are the same at the end of the day, right? So we are all like parts of this whole soil and the ecosystem of the world. So as far as you understand that, as far as you understand that root, then you can bring your mind to stillness. There's nothing for you to think. There's nothing for you to be greedy about. There's nothing for you to be angry about. There's nothing for you to be, take these kleshas in. So a person who can do a yoga asana without an effort and who can contemplate on this infiniteness is what you call as a perfect yoga asana, right? Good. So now, next day in the yoga asana class, so it's not like, you come to yoga asana and be like very serene face and give that feeling to the viewers that, I am in heaven right now. And then at the moment the instructor closes the eyes, you change the legs, right? That is not what it is, okay? It's a whole job inside your room. If you can stay in an yoga asana for 10 to 15 minutes initially, or 5 minutes, right? So that's good. Even if you take an asana like Padmasana, initially where does it hurt? The knees. Knees give a killer pain, right? Then where you keep your one foot on the thigh start to hurt. Then when you bring the other leg on top of that leg, the down leg ankle, it goes like this and it start to hurt, right? So all these parts will give you trouble in Padmasana. Then the instructor is saying, bring the knees down to the floor. How to do that? One knee is anyway by default it's up. How to bring the knees down, right? So that is not easy. So one is you need to perfect that asana. Then stay there 30 seconds, 50 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, right? So Sirasasana is actually a beautiful asana that you can stay n number of hours if you exactly know which part of the head should be placed on the floor. If it is 1 inch forward, it's not easy, not going to happen. If it's 1 inch backward, again, it's not going to happen, right? Exact spot if you keep, you can even release your hands in Sirasasana, right? So, and you can just stay there anytime, right? Because the whole body weight kind of a thing will not be felt if you keep the right place, Sirasasana, right? Even a handstand, when you keep the handstand first, you go up, so your hands are like shivering, feeling like, your body can't hold the weight anymore. Your body is very heavy. But then after some time, even if you become like a small little elephant, still you can do the Sirasasana. Sorry, the handstand, right? No problem. So this is the second sutra about yoga asana. So in this current world, when you say yoga asana is number one. Everything else is not relevant. So you do a yoga asana, after that you go for a drink. So that's how things are happening, right? But you should not intoxicate your body. So in reality, perfectioning a yoga asana, Patanjali says in the upcoming sutra, don't go to do pranayama if you can't perfect the yoga asana. I am not saying this. Patanjali is saying, so that there is a big distinction between these two. If you are not a master in yoga asana, don't do pranayama. For you to come here, you should master this, right? So how many asanas should we learn? Like 3,000 asanas? No. You should be able to stay in one position for prolonged period. It can be just cross legs, sit down. Vajrasana, just sit down. Why we do all sort of these different yoga asanas is because our body has gone haywire. So we do all these things to bring the body under control, bring the body under in sync with the mind, right? To do that only we do in number of asana, right? We want to twist the spine, we want to twist the head, all this kind of thing we do because we want to feel without a pain, right? Then it's about maybe a Padmasana, maybe a cross leg, maybe Vajrasana for the rest of your life, maybe, right? So that's what. So the second sutra says, perfection in an asana is achieved when effort to perform it become effortless. Very easy. An infinite being is within reach. How to go there? Through prayatna, persevering effort, continued effort, right? 249. Sorry, 248 after 247. Tata dvandaha anabhigataha. Tataha means from that, from what we talked about. Dvanda is two, duality, opposites, duality, two things. Anabhigataha means nabhigata is scoped. Anabhigata is disturbances are, you have gone beyond the disturbances. So if somebody give you an arrow and what do you call it, this danu, and this arrow to focus and release it, what happens if you are disturbed? If people are just cheering up for you to do it, maybe even though you are an archer, you may fail at that point, right? So when the disturbances are ceased, this whole dual concept of I am a separate person, I am an individual, I am a human, I am so and so's son, I am so and so's daughter, I am so and so position, doing this, that, and the other, and the whole world is different. This cow is working for me, this man is working for me, that dog is working for me. That part will go away. You will feel that the dog, myself, cow, building, soil, air, wind, whatever it is, it's the same. We are just part of this whole an ecosystem. Just that we are given a mind to improve and go back to it, right? What we do is basically we build, and go away from that, right? So they say from then on, from what we learned on the yoga asana, right? Just give me a minute. Right. So, tataha dvandaha anabhigataha, meaning from that, from what we learned before, right? So you perfect a yoga asana. From there, if you perfect a yoga asana, if you are able to contemplate on the infinite, then this whole duality concept, opposite concept, having two beings, this part will go away, right? So that will come with when the disturbances to the mind is gone away. So this is what we call as calmness in simple terms, right? Good. So from there, the sadhaka is not being disturbed through the dualities, right? Good. Then we go into 249. Tasmin, so tasmin sati swasa prashvasayoho gati vichedah pranayamaha. So I will come here. Pranayama is the regulation of incoming and outgoing flow of breath with retention. It is to be practiced only after perfection in asana is attained. So Patanjali says, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. We are talking about yama, niyama, and asana. So we talked about asana. Then pranayama, right? So he says pranayama is swasa, inhalation, prashvasaha, exhalation, and then vichedaha, meaning cessation, stoppage, which we call as kumbhaka, or keeping the breath inside, right? Maintaining the breath inside. So these three are what is called as pranayama. So in the sense, in pranayama, whatever you do pranayama, either you inhale, either you exhale, or we retain the breath again inside or outside. So Patanjali says in the 49th Sutra, this is to be practiced only after perfection in asana is attained. Right? So asana has to be perfected. It's like you want to keep something inside your house which is so precious. Let's say it's made out of gold and diamonds. And then the sunlight should not reach there, right? And the fungus should not reach there. For you to do that, you have to build a very good house, right? So building the house is what you call as asana, yoga asana. So this is a whole body made out of few elements. So out of which the main body, this body has to be in a place where it's not always being shaken by earthquakes, right? So earthquakes are when you are doing yoga asana, your disturbances are what is called as earthquakes, right? So when you build a house which is not get disturbed by earthquakes only, you can actually focus on something inside that, right? Which is the pranayama. So prana vayu or pranic air is what we inhale, exhale, and we retain. For you to do pranayama, first fix the body through asana. That is of utmost importance. So that's why even when you start to learn yoga, from day one, you should not actually think of pranayama. You should actually master at least few asana. You should be able to stay in that particular discipline in comfort, right? Steady. That's where you are ready to then at least talk about pranayama, right? So what are the meanings? Tasmin on this, right? Sati, being accomplished. Swasa in breath, prashvasa, exhale. Gati is a movement. Vichedaha, kumbhaka is what you call as the regulation of breath. Otherwise, in Sanskrit, we call it regulation of breath is called as pranayama. Pranayama, right? Good. So, how are we going to now regulate the breath? What is this inhalation, exhalation, and why this body is so important so the body health or asana strength is so important. Why is it so important to do pranayama, right? So this is where I promised you guys that I will tell a story today, right? So at least some people will come to the session then. Okay, good. So, right. So in the 49th sutra, it said Bahya. Bahya is Bahira, outside. Then Abhyantara is internal. Abhyantara, Bahya, Abhyantara, Stamba. Stamba is restraint. Vrittihi, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Vritti is movements. Desha, place. Kala, time. Samkhya Bihi, right? Samkhya Bihi, meaning the number or precision or deliberation. Then Paridrishtaha, Dirga Sukshmaha. Paridrishtaha, regulated. Dirga is for a long time. Then Sukshma, there's a spelling mistake, is subtle body, right? So pranayama has three movements: prolonged and fine inhalation, exhalation, and retention, all regulated with precision according to duration and place. Where and how long? There are people who can keep the breath inside for minutes. Right? There are people who can keep the breath inside and wait there for even hours. And they can actually even change the body temperature. Right? So basically all these things will come, but you have to do it for a longer time and learn it. So that sutra is a little complicated, but that's okay. Then, okay. So this is where, right, the whole story come into the picture. So I kind of found this story in a little compressed manner. So I thought I'll just take it as it is and try to explain it to you. So now you know this whole, there's something called Srimat Bhagavatam, right? Srimat Bhagavatam. So Srimat Bhagavatam is the story where the nectar of immortality was produced through the churning of the ocean. So you churn the ocean, and now how to churn the ocean? You need some equipment, right? So take a basket of water, right? So without anything, can you churn it? You can't, right? So you need something. There are few things required, right? So Srimad Bhagavatam actually explains how this churning of the ocean. So you know this Mount Meru or Mahameru. In Sinhala, when we talk about things, we say Mahameru Parvate Vimata Kadavatnavi, or you are trying to change the Mahameru Parvata. So that means that Mount Meru is such a big thing, right? It's huge. So that particular mountain was used to churn the ocean, right? So at the end of the story, you will realize what is this whole mountain, where is the ocean, what you churn, what you get out of it, right? So just listen to this. The story, as well as will be understood from the interwoven explanation, symbolizes what takes place in the human body in the practice of pranayama. So this whole churning of the ocean story actually is going to tell you the whole pranayama work inside the body and what you get out of it, right? So the strength of the asuras, who are asuras, demons, bad guys, alarmed the devas, who are devas, good guys, angels, the beautiful people, right? Who, fearing that vice would dominate virtue, approached Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Lord Indra, who in turn approached Lord Vishnu, the protector of the universe. So there was a big, there was a small problem, like two political parties, whether they will rule these or whether they will rule them. And then who will go to the prison at the end of the day, right? Or both will not go to the prison. You never know, right? So when that problem came, what happened is gods got together. So people came to God, right? Or the angels went to the God. So Lord Shiva, Brahma, Indra. Then they thought, okay, not going to work. Let's go to Lord Vishnu, who is the protector of the earth, right? Then Lord Vishnu suggested churning of the ocean to bring out the nectar. Nectar is amrita, right? Amrit is not nectar, right? Even though there are shops called Amrit. Okay, so what we should do is we take this universe, let's churn it, and let's get the nectar. Nectar is the crust of everything, the most valuable part. Let's bring it out, right? Because now these two people are there. So who will rule who? There was a problem. Then Lord Vishnu said, okay, fine. Let's churn the whole thing and let's take the best out of it and let's keep it, right? Then nothing to worry. It's like we have the gems, you have the rocks. So gems are more powerful than the rocks, right? Like the 5 stones, somebody doing this, likewise. Then, so Lord Vishnu suggested that. So Lord Vishnu suggested the churning of the ocean to bring out nectar of immortality hidden in it. So the nectar has the immortality hidden in it. He advised the devas to discuss with the demons the effects of the nectar and to persuade them to jointly churn the ocean. Now, gods realize, now this is not something that we ourselves can do. The asuras are also very powerful, very strong people. So let's get them also into the play. But then gods are smart, so they thought, okay, let's come to terms and conditions before we get in there. Who gets what? Now, when we are churning this, the serpents will come, this will come, that will come. Who eats them? Who gets the nectar? Right? You have to decide that. Otherwise, wrong people will get the wrong thing and everything will be messed out, right? Then, and to persuade them to jointly churn the oil, Lord Vishnu said that he would do the rest. Right? So let's come to terms and conditions. Then the rest of it, let me take care of it, right? Then the angels and demons decided to use Mount Meru, the big mountain, as the churn staff for the churning. And Lord Adishesha, the serpent, the conch of Lord Vishnu, as the rope for whirling the mountain. So it's going to be something like, so Lord Vishnu has a conch like this in his hand, right? And there is a snake in it, right? So they are going to now use the snake and they are going to use a mountain. And now with this, we are going to churn the ocean. So we take the mountain, we put it upside down, right? Something like this. So this is the whole mountain. And then we put the snake around it, right? And then one side of the people pull the snake this side, So demons pull the snake here, and the gods pull the snake to the other side. So what happens is the Mount Meru will go like this. Now we are churning the whole ocean, right? So Adishesha is this serpent. So plants, creepers, various grasses and herbs were gathered together and thrown into the ocean as raw material so that they might be churned to produce the nectar of life. So like when you do this magic karishta, you have to put this whole ingredients into that. So without ingredients, it will not churn, right? So you put the Mount Meru, so you have the serpent, now the mechanism is ready, but for you to get the nectar out of it, you need to put certain ingredients. So certain plants, creepers, this, that, and the other, they put it. So now it's ready. According to Ayurveda, now this is important. According to Ayurveda, the body is made out of 7 constituents, dhatus, and 3 permeating humors, doshas, right? The 7 elements are so called because they sustain the body. Now we talk about something else, right? In between the story, but we will come back to the story. So these 7 things are, we call child, rasa. It's like this milky kind of glue kind of thing, which is in our body. We call this in Buddhism, in the Shuddhashtaka, there is something called warm and a little sticky something, right? So that is there in our body. And blood, rakta, flesh, mamsa, fat, meda, and bones, asti, marrow, majja, semen, shukra. So they keep the body immune from infection and diseases. They are churned together in pranayama for the production of nectar of life. So just like how Lord Vishnu said, okay, this is a problematic situation. This is unstable. So we need to bring the nectar out of it. How to bring the nectar? We use certain equipment. Mount Meru, Adishesha, right? And 2 teams, Ashvasa, Prashvasa, something like that. Okay, so one side of people pulling to this side and the other side of people pulling to the other side. So then what are we actually churning? This whole universe, which is, if you take in terms of body, where this body is made out of 7 elements. So these 7 elements is what we are churning through the mechanism of pranayama to get the nectar out of it, right? Then Mount Meru represents the spinal column. Here, the spinal column is what is meant by Mount Meru, right? It acts as the risk to churn the breath to produce energy, right? Lord Adishesha, or the serpent, represents Sushumna. So inside the spinal cord, there is a cord going actually inside, which is called the Sushumna. So that this is the particular Adishesha. It is a rope which dashes or controls the spine in respiration, right? So the spine is controlled through this, through Sushumna, right? The head and tail of Adishesha represents Pingala and Ida, nadis, the energy channels. So we have 2 energy channels, which goes up like this throughout the spinal cord. So these are what you call as Ida and Pingala. So this is the head and tail of the Adishesha. Then, or the upward and downward course, and in and out breath. So upward, downward, inward, so up, down, in, out. So likewise, even churning, this is one side, and then they again come to this side. Again, they go to the other side, right? So that is how this is happening. So Ida also corresponds to the parasympathetic nervous system in Western medicine. So don't worry about these things, right? And so these are the 2 nervous systems. We have 2 nervous systems in the body, which calls as parasympathetic as well as sympathetic nervous system, which do 2 separate types of things in the body. So these, in yogic terms, 15,000 or I don't know how many number of years back, yogis have identified this and written down and given the 2 names, Ida and Pingala. the two Nadi systems. So as Adishesha was used as a rope for churning, so inhalation and exhalation are the two ends of the central nervous system. The rod that churns to create the energy that is then stored in the 7 chambers, which are called as the chakras of the spine. Together, they churn in breath and out breath to generate the vital energy known as prana. Right? So, for you to get the nectar out of the universe, they use Mount Meru and Adishesha and 2 types of people, good and bad. And then they churn the whole ocean like this, right? So it's churned like this, likewise, okay? So likewise, even this universe is equivalent to our body. There's nothing in this universe and our body which are different. Everything in the universe is also there in our body, right? That's why in Hindu tradition, the temple is built based on the human mechanism, right? So for you, so like what you use for churning the ocean, now we are using pranayama to churn the universe within what we call as us, right? So we use the Mount Meru as the spinal cord, and then inside the spinal cord, the Sushumna is what you call as the Adishesha. And to churn this, we use inhalation, exhalation. Good things in, bad things out. Likewise, so inhale, exhale. So that is what we use. So now, returning to our story, as the churning began, so now gods are in one side and demons are in the other side. Mount Meru is there. Adishesha is now tangled. Now people have started. Now ready, set, go. Now we are churning, right? Remember, Lord Vishnu said, let's come to terms and conditions. Let me take care of the rest, right? So as the churning began, Mount Meru sank deep into the ocean. Mount Meru, so even if you take any equipment, if you do this like this on the soil, it will go drill down. So likewise, even Mount Meru also went inside, sank into the ocean. Lord Vishnu incarnated as Kurma. Kurma is what? There's a Kurma Asana that we do. Kurma, tortoise, right? In the Kurma Asana, we keep the hands behind, legs forward, head down like a tortoise, right? Kurma crept underneath the mountain and lifted it from the floor of the seabed so that it might float and churning could continue. So what happens is, these are very nice, beautiful stories, right? So let's imagine like this is Mount Meru. Now we are churning this. This is the seabed, right? Now we are churning this like this. So what happened is now this will keep on digging down, right? Because it's a mountain, so it will keep on digging down. So Lord Vishnu took the incarnation of tortoise and he went and he basically stayed here. Now the Mount Meru is being churned on top of its shell like this, so that he made sure churning continues. Now these 2 type of people are now just turning, right? But Lord Vishnu realized something is not right. So this is Mount Meru is going to sink into the ocean and this work is not going to get realized. So there has to be some solid point. So he went and he stayed there. Now the churning will continue, right? It will not drill down, churning will continue. Now the whole sea is getting churned. Right. Several gems were generated as a result of the churning. So now first the gems started coming out because of the churning. Then, so even in the gem industry, churning is what they do, right? So they take the whole soil and they keep on churning. And what happens? The gems come out, right? Then the last to spring out of the ocean was the Amrita, the nectar of immortality, right? So then the nectar of immortality came, right? So Purusha, or the soul, represents Lord Vishnu, right? Purusha, or the soul, represents Lord Vishnu, and the body represents Prakriti, or the nature. So the body is the nature. This body is not you, is not us. This body doesn't belong to you, even though you decorate it with so many multiple things. How much you do it, it doesn't belong to you. If it does belong to you, by the end of your life, you should take it and go. But you will leave it and go. And none of us know how we will leave it and go. In what nature we will leave the body and leave, right? Prakriti is the nature. So there is a Purusha and a Prakriti, two different things because of our stupidity. Because we think these two are different things, right? It's one thing, right? So this body is a physical thing. This body is like all these other things, this body is a physical thing which will be destroyed at some point. It is right now also, my cells are dying, my new cells are getting generated, right, in the skin. So there is no such a thing called Amal's hand, because he is dying and he is getting generated, right? So, so there is a thing inside this, no? Right? So that's what, with this churning, what we are trying to go into. So the body becomes the fountain for the production, and the load of the body is its generative force. The body becomes the fountain for production, and the load of the body is its generative force. Atman acts as a tortoise to lift and keep the diaphragm floating upwards, right? So there's a diaphragm also, right? And then allowing the breath to come in contact with inner elements of the body: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and its 7 constituents: child, blood, flesh, fat, bones, marrow, semen, as well as 10 types of vital energy: prana, apana, samana, udana, vyana, naga, kurma, krapkara, devadatta, and dhanamjaya. So there are 10 types of vital energy. So basically what it tells is Atman. Atman is what is called as the soul, right? So Atman is not perishable. It's like the whole electricity function inside the body which keeps us going, right? So that particular thing is what is called as this tortoise. If the tortoise is not there, this churning will not continue, right? So the tortoise is what keeps us in this life form. So that is what is called as the Atman in Sanskrit. Don't misunderstand Atmaya, Atma with 2 different languages. Atmaya in Sinhala or Pali is different to Atman in Sanskrit. So Atman is, if you take, now if I'm saying I am living, you take my body out. If I'm still saying I'm living, now that living part is what you call as Atman. So this Atman is what goes through samsaric cycles, different bodies, different births, all this thing is happening with the Atman. Body is not the Atman. Body is not you, right? So Atman acts as the tortoise. If the tortoise is not there, this whole physical, so now through pranayama, we are also trying to bring the nectar out of it, right? So that will not happen if there is no Atman, if there is no tortoise, right? Then, and keep the diaphragm floating upwards. Diaphragm is the muscle here. It's floating upward, inside, up. So this diaphragm, that's why we said diaphragm is a very important part in the whole human system, because if you're on the day, so for humans, I have seen this happening, right? Even to one of my very close relatives, diaphragm starts not functioning. So it stopped functioning. So when the diaphragm stopped functioning, where is the breath? But the person is still conscious. You can't breathe, right? So when you inhale, diaphragm pulls down and the lungs come out. When you exhale, diaphragm comes up, lungs get empty, this one goes out. So this up and down is what is being done by the, like it's similar to what these asuras and the gods have been doing. Churning what? On the Atman. So Atman is there, right? Your supreme soul is there. On that only you do this churning, right? So this is what you call as the whole pranayama story, right? So with that, basically it will bring the nectar out of the 5 elements you are made out of, 5 elements in the human body, and the 10 types of vayus which you are inhaling. So inside our body, apart from these elements, we have the prana vayu, what we inhale. There's an airflow going in, right? So these prana vayu, there are 10 types of prana: prana, apana, samana, udana, vyana, naga, kurma, krata, devadatta, dhananjaya. We will learn about those things in future, right? So once we actually finish this chapter, there are a few things we need to come back and go into detail, right? So through the contact of these 7 constituents and 10 vital energies, and with the help of the seer, the spine and the breath. Spine is the meru, breath, the elixir of life force is produced in the body. The prana is also known as bioenergy. As prana is a self-energizing force, it generates more power through the process of pranayama, right? So the first thing. So now we went to the body again. Now we are again going back to the story. So you got it. We put the Mount Meru here, and there is a diaphragm like the serpent, right? So basically we do this part. So then there are 2 nadis going on the 2 sides of the prana or the spine, or on the sides of the Shushumna, which we call as Ida Pingala. And this whole body is made out of 7 elements, 10 vital energies, all of these things. Now when we churn on the Atman, right? If there's no Atman, you're a dead body anyway, right? So since the Atman is there, the tortoise is there, when we do this, now the gems and things start to come out, right? So now let's see in the story what came and who grabbed it, right? Now let's see who is cunning. The first thing to spring from the ocean was the poison called halahala, right? This is called halahala, the poison. So first thing came out from the ocean is called halahala, the poison. This was swallowed by Lord Shiva. First thing came out, and then Lord Shiva took it, right? He swallowed this. So that's why he's called Nilkant. So that's why his neck is represented with blue color, right? Who alone was capable of absorbing it. So he was capable to absorb it. So that's why only his neck is blue color, right? So they say in the story, his neck became blue after he swallowed this, right? This halahala represents the toxic output of exhalation. Toxic output of exhalation. Toxic output of, so when you churn the body, when you churn the human body also, first thing come out is the toxic exhalation out of your nostril, right? What comes out is the toxic exhalation. So the God is there to swallow your toxic exhalation, right? So what you have to do is you need to do your sadhana. You need to churn the body through pranayama to bring out the toxins, and the Lord will grab it and he will swallow it. You don't have to keep it, right? Then the life, so the life elixir is produced by the 5 primary elements, which are its raw material. Earth is the base for production, and ether acts as the distributor of energy. Air is active in the process of breathing in and out. This stirs and creates a fusion of elements of water and fire, which by nature are opposed to one another, water and fire, resulting in the production of electrical energy known as life force, right? In Sanskrit, this is called as ojas, or the spiritual lustre. The generation and distribution of prana in the human system may be compared to the production and functioning of electrical energy. Stored water in stale running water has a dynamic life-giving force. Water running with minimal force cannot generate electricity. Through the construction of a reservoir, waterfalls and turbines, so blah, blah, blah. So all these things are there. So basically what it says is, through the body, when you churn the body, you get nectars out of it. These nectars basically are kept in different parts of the spine region. So one at the bottom, one at somewhere middle, likewise. So in these 7 chakras, the storehouses of energies, when you churn the body through pranayama, these forces, energies come and store. Right? So this is something like, so that's what they say. So when you take like water, so through water, you can bring out the electricity. So this whole body, if you churn it properly through the correct ways, it can actually create something like an electricity, which is like the prana energy, right? So this prana energy, which you create like an electricity, it gets stored at different layers of the whole spine, because there are certain storehouses to that, which we call as chakras, the energy points which will grab them, right? So the thoracic area is the magnetic field. The practice of pranayama makes the spindles act as turbines and transmits the drawn in energy to remotest cells of lungs for generation of energy. The energy is accumulated in the chakras, which are situated in the spinal column and acts as transformers. This energy generated in the thoracic cavity is like electricity, right? It is stepped up and down by the chakras and distributed throughout the body through the transmission lines of circulatory and nervous system. The yogis discovered pranayama for making full use of this drawn in energy so that it might maintain the entire human system, comprising the respiratory, circulatory, nervous, digestive, excretory, and reproductive systems with optimum efficiency and harmony. In pranayama, the carpet of the mucous membrane of the nostrils filters and cleanses the breath as it enters in inhalation. So right now, because of fashion, we trim the nose, we do so many things with our body. So we are given the gift of the tools, but we want to destroy it, right? So why all this mucus function in the nostrils and all this is there is to, when you breathe in, to purify it like a filter. Look at a vehicle, there is an air filter, likewise to filter things, right? When you inhale. Right. Upon exhalation, sufficient time is given for the system to absorb the drawn in energy so the breath may mingle with the blood. So we should not, we say normally, we say dirgha swasa. We don't say short kind of swasa. Dirgha swasa. Why? We'll inhale through a long time and try to retain it. So whatever you have inhaled with will get mixed with the body. Right. And then this purified blood, so there's a lot of, not only oxygen, so many things are given through the blood vessels. The purified blood filled with chemical priorities and hormones is called a constituent full of jewels, or the jewel of blood. Ratna Purita Dhatu. Ratna Purita Dhatu is what is called as, when you inhale and retain the breath inside, this whole bloodline get energized with whatever you have inhaled, right? And that is what you call as Ratna Purita Dhatu. Full use of this absorption and reabsorption of energy will allow one to live 100 years with perfect health and body, clarity of mind, and equipoise of spirit. That is why the practice of pranayama is considered to be a great science and art. Right? End of the story. So through the Mount Mahameru, the churning of Mount Meru is basically, it's the churning of the body. Who is the tortoise? Tortoise is the Atman, right? So on the Atman, keeping this physical body, when you churn it with correct mechanism, so basically jewels will come out, right? For you to do this, most important thing is you have to have a very good foundation. For you to sit and do pranayama only, you have to have a perfection in yoga asana. Breathing 10 times is not enough. Breathing for 10 counts, exhaling for 10 counts is not enough, right? You should, when you exhale, we say in pranayama, we don't exhale like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, we inhale, sorry, not exhale, inhale. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So imagine when you consciously inhale for a long period, what happens? Number one, you get so much from the nature inside, right? And when the process is getting longer and longer and longer, your blood start to absorb. And when you inhale and retain it, you are actually giving time for the body to basically take this energy all over the place. Then you exhale. Again, you inhale, right? So we have to do this in a very conscious, slow-paced manner, right? So there are different types of pranayama techniques. So sometimes when you do pranayama technique, we say get support. Hold the hand like this, right? Keep the hand like this. Why? Because your asana practice is not good, right? So through your asana practices, you must make sure the body is soft like a petal of a lotus. And at the moment you want, it's hard as a rock, right? So that's why we not only do one asana, because there are so much of systems in the body. So different asanas work at different layers, different systems, strengthening different parts of the body. So we do n number of asanas and we try to stay in those asanas. When you do that, learn to stay in Sukhasana for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So this is not, I will somehow today make, right? How much pain it will come, it's okay. I will not show it. I'll pretend like I'm happy. No, that's not the case. When you keep on practicing, naturally you should be able to close your eyes and sit down and wait, right? How can a person achieve a Buddhahood meditating for 6 years if he can't sit in one place for 5 minutes, right? That is an impossible task, right? So for him even, because he, so in his childhood, it is said that he has mastered all the arts. Archery, it can be, I don't know, all these types of arts in the ancient age, right? So he must have mastered the yoga asana, something similar to that as well. Otherwise, living in a jungle, staying under a tree, sleeping on, so we can't sleep on the floor. No? If you sleep on the floor, what happens next day? So much problems, right? So you should, so that's where you should remove these layers between the Prakriti and the seer or Atman, right? So get out of these things, take the body through a little rough journey and make it tolerable at all circumstances, right? So do yoga asanas not to do it and I could do it. No, you do it because you can retain in the yoga asana, right? So that is an exercise we should do. So learning million number of yoga asanas is not going to help you, right? Only thing is you should be able to maintain in those whatever the number of yoga asana that you are doing, right? Which is very important. That is the foundation, or that is basically building a better physical temple. Inside the temple, whatever the puja that you are doing, that will all go well if the temple is properly ventilating, properly the light is coming in, the doors are placed properly, doors are functioning, all these things. So the body, the asana has to, really do a huge job in this. Once you are solid with your yoga asana, now you are ready to do the pranayama. Because when you do the pranayama, you can't be worried about your bodily pains and all this kind of thing. No. Once you fix it, now we are going to work with it. right? So you don't build a house and once you go to live there, you don't every day fix it. No, you build a house properly and then you go and live. Then you actually bring the house to a different thing, bring the house to an office. So it's the place that you call it a house and then you call it a home. Your kids will come, all these things will start to happen. But you can't keep building a house. You can't keep building a house and do all the other things because it's a big disturbance factor and you're weak, right? So that's where the asana practices and all. So that's why even when I'm reaching to these sutras, I'm even changing the times of we practice things, right? So it's a change required with the time. If we change it from the day one, it will not make any sense. When the right time comes, you need to make certain changes, right? Good. So we will end up the session from here today. We will discuss any question you have after the session. Hands in namaskaram. Take a deep breath. Deep breathe out. See whether you are comfortable with your breath. See whether you are comfortable with your inhalation and exhalation. Whether the position you are in, whether it helps you or troubles you. Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Clap your palms.